who I feel, beat Canelo, and I think no matter which way you want to look at it, everybody will tell you it's a close fight. I think he beat Canelo, and to me, this kid is probably the most talented Cuban fighter that I've seen, in 2 decades.
Years ago, Cuba ruled the boxing world, and when its influence finally waned, boxers from other countries breathed a sigh of relief. Naive, none of them suspected that all these years the greatest minds in Cuba were conducting experiments and preparing a super soldier who would eclipse all his predecessors. The result of their work was the super middleweight champion, David Morrell.
He doesn't want to stay in there and just submit to the clinch from Cazarez. So that's to his credit. Big left hand from Morrell. Down goes Cazarez.
Junior, who is looking to show who's boss. Big shot from Morrell. And an uppercut. Down goes Ranken.
And like you said, Yosi with a fighter.
Friends, today's video will be dedicated to all the knockouts in David Morrell's career. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Rodriguez Valdez. Like all great Cubans, Morrell dedicated almost his entire life to sports. Training and first competitions started in his childhood, and at 18, David won the World Youth Championship. A year later, the young Dominator also won the Cuban National Championship and later repeated his success at the New Delhi Championship. The result of the Cuban's amateur career was a record of 130-2, where both losses came in fights against equally talented compatriots. In 2019, Morrell began his professional career, and his first opponent was Rodriguez Valdez, who had a streak of 4 defeats. Morrell immediately began circling and measuring the distance. Despite his solid weight, David moved as easily as Naoya Inoue, and his opponent looked extremely clumsy in comparison. Within a few seconds, Rodriguez attempted to attack but immediately failed and was knocked down by a hard left. After getting up, he tried to recover and launch a whole flurry of punches. Morrell easily dodged all the blows and annihilated the opponent at the ropes. Quinton Ranken. Typically, talented young boxers are kept on a diet of 3rd or even 4th-rate fighters, but not in David's case. While his first opponent had a record of 2-6, his second had a record of 15-6, and recently was on a streak of 3 victories. This lucky guy's name was Quinton Ranken, and he had a unique opportunity, the first time in his life to get knocked out clean. By professional standards, Morrell was a green youth but already looked like a championship-level boxer in the ring. His speed and footwork were a real revelation for Quinton, and the poor guy just didn't know what to do. In contrast, David knew exactly what to do and began to break the opponent with rushes. Initially, the American tried to counter him with clinches but soon went into a defense. That's when it all started. The Cuban tore him apart with punches right through the block. The blows were so hard that Ranken didn't even think about opening up, but it wasn't necessary. Morrell managed to break through the defense and scored a knockdown in the first round. And after the break, finished the opponent with a brilliant uppercut.
For Morrell, and an uppercut. Down goes Ranken.
And like you said, Yosi with a fighter.
Mike Gavronski. Morrell's first 2 fights took place in the light heavyweight division, but he thought he could make the limit in a lower category and immediately moved down. The promoters didn't delay his advancement and immediately gave him a title fight for the interim WBA belt against prospect Lennox Allen with a record of 22-0. And you know what? 22-year-old David went all 12 rounds with him, taking at least 11. This fight showed that the Cuban could not only knock people out, but also outplay them, and other newcomers were just out of his league. Morrell's next opponent was veteran Mike Gavronski on a winning streak. Before the fight, the champion failed the weigh-in, so only the challenger could win the belt. Gavronski was good in attacking, but his defense was just awful. He ate every left straight and constantly ran into an uppercut from the lead hand. Once David realized this, he combined these punches and now destroyed Mike with combinations. At the end of the round, the already beaten veteran threw a lazy straight and was immediately punished with a powerful 3-punch combo.
Last time he went 12 rounds against Lennox Allen. And look at these shots, and down goes Gavronski. Gavronski has eaten big shots through this round, 10 seconds left.
The referee counted the knockdown and should have stopped the fight, but it continued. The beating lasted half of the second round, but soon David took a pause. It seemed that the brutal thrashing of Mike slightly tired him, and the American tried to take advantage of this, for which he got hit even harder. Morrell picked up the pace, added more right uppercuts, and finally forced the referee to stop the fight.
But he's not, so I can't blame him taking a fight like this, but this is easy pickings. Jack resends it, that's it, and that was a good time to end it. Again, it was all Morrell from the early going.
Yeah, well, I'll start it off, Sean. I mean, look, this could have been any part of either.
Mario Abel Cazarez. Hopping on a streak of just 4 wins, the Cuban received an unprecedented generous offer to fight for the regular WBA champion title. Considering that he had recently shown up overweight and was stripped of the belt, the deal was indeed favorable. The second contender was Mario Abel Cazarez with a record of 12-0. Despite the 0 in the loss column, he had almost no chances, and rightfully so. Mario started the match with a sharp straight to the block, the sound of which echoed through the arena. David quickly realized that it was better not to miss this punch and covered with a high block, soon starting his first cautious advances. Thanks to his footwork, the Cuban instantly cut angles and threw punches that Mario clearly did not expect. Soon, the Mexican followed the national classic and landed a low blow.
And then he will tie you up. And he did it against Chavez Jr. all night.
And David responded with a punch to the back of the head.
Really wanted to get him back that time because he showed it on his face and he went out and did it.
After mutual fouls, the tension escalated significantly and reached its peak by the end of the round. Cazarez missed with a straight, and the Cuban sniped him with 2 punches.
Just submit to the clinch from Cazarez. So that's to his credit. Big left hand from Morrell, and down goes Cazarez. Down flat on his back.
Alantez Fox. The first title defense is always the most exciting, but not for such a monster as David. Even if he knows about other human emotions, fear is definitely not one of them, which cannot be said about the challenger. The first to get a chance to take Morrell's gold was tough American Alantez Fox, with a serious but not outstanding record of 28-2. Fox activated musketeer mode, but instead of a sword, he had a jab. This punch was precise enough to cause David some trouble, but he still took every round. His pressure and wild attacks at medium range literally tore Alantez apart, and moments with dropped hands and dodges added extra psychological pressure.
David Morrell get a right hook. Fox gets spun around.
In addition to mutual exchanges, the boxers often clinched, and in one of these, the champion stunned the opponent with a homing left hook.
Now he's hurt hard. Left hand by Morrell.
Oh! The American staggered and went down, and upon returning to his feet, he never fully recovered. Desperately trying to survive, the challenger kept clinching, but Morrell continued to land vicious punches, forcing the corner to throw in the towel.
Will and Mark Nelson's taking a close look. They're throwing in the towel.
Fox was trying to hold on, but Trey Fox, Alantez.
Kelvin Henderson. While Canelo Alvarez officially ruled the super middleweight division, Benavidez and Morrell were in his shadow, which only made them angrier and stronger. While the Mexican monster was on his way to another title fight, Morrell was preparing for his second defense against Kelvin Henderson. A record of 15-1 and an original nickname, Hot Sauce, were all that could be said about the contender. For a guy of David's level, he was just another snack. As usual, without any feeling out process, Morrell attacked his opponent and demonstrated his rich arsenal on him for 3 minutes. Body straights, uppercuts from both hands, a sweeping right hook.
Henderson needs to stay off the ropes. That is the one place.
Henderson took all of David's strongest punches, but somehow stayed on his feet and even countered him well a couple of times. From the second round, the Cuban switched to moderate-paced exchanges, which did not change the course of the match. Kelvin continued to take a monstrous amount of punches.
Fires back! You know, he's countered a little bit off those rows.
At the end of the third round, the champion rocked the opponent and spent 30 seconds trying to finish him off, but the bell betrayed him.
Looking on! Henderson, will he survive to see the end of round 3? It's all Morrell!
The next 2 minutes were relatively calm, and then David turned on the meat grinder again.
Just see, there it is. Perfect look.
And there's another beautiful right hook that lands in long distance.
The referee didn't wait long and pulled the poor guy out from under the hail of punches. Aidos Yebosinuli. Many young guys prefer to fight and make a name for themselves as often as possible, but Morrell did not follow the standard path here either. Instead of fighting every 3 months, the Cuban started appearing in the ring only twice a year, but this definitely didn't hurt him. After each break, David returned even more deadlier and better, so promoters had to work hard to find a brave man for the role of contender. At the end of 2022, the Daredevil was the unbeaten knockout artist from Kazakhstan, Aidos Yebosinuli. This time, Morrell did not rush things, preferring to break Aidos methodically and without taking too many risks. It all started with body shots, but as the match progressed, the champion's actions became more diverse. Aidos tried to counter, attempted to close in and trap David at the ropes, but all in vain. The Cuban was too fast and often evaded attacks even before they were fully launched. It was strange to see the usually extremely aggressive Morrell not pushing the pace, but all the fun awaited us in the final round. At the start, David landed a classic combination, right hook, left straight, and the war-named Aidos fell for the first time.
Time that he has entered round 12 and he just knocked down
The damage accumulated over the entire fight took its toll, and every punch threatened another fall, so the contenders survived in clinches. The Cuban waited for the perfect moment, and during the next convergence, shut Aidos down with a hook.
Put a crushing capstone on this contest, knocks down Yamaguchi again!
Yamaguchi Falcao. In 2023, fans began to talk about David as a potential contender for the undisputed champion status and as an opponent for Alvarez, but it didn't go beyond fantasies. Despite his supernatural talent and a series of knockouts, Morrell remained just some newcomer in business terms. The Cuban understood his position, and so he decided to continue defending his title and soon crossed gloves with Brazilian Yamaguchi Falcao. The contender hadn't lost in 9 fights in a row and repeatedly won various belts at home, but his achievements seemed unimpressive next to a monster like Morrell. Falcao felt lost against the huge champion, but tried to compensate for his modest size with speed. This tactic probably worked against middle-tier boxers, but when David Morrell is in front of you, nothing helps. The first solid punch pushed the Brazilian out of the center of the ring, and with each subsequent punch, he was covering up even more. The Cuban kept pressing, and in the middle of the round, he managed to land a left uppercut through the guard.
Getting tested early by the uppercuts of David Morrell Jr.
And the problem for Falcao is he's not a boxer.
Falcao did an epic dance and soon leaned against the ropes, which became a signal for the Cuban to finish the fight. Morrell threw powerful left punches, but it was just a distraction. As soon as the Brazilian counterattacked, David obliterated him with a right hook.
How much more is this one going to last? Good night. It's over. David Morrell with a scintillating KO in his Las Vegas debut in
Senna Agco. David brought his record to 9-0 and seemed to have rid the super middleweight division of all undefeated prospects except himself and David Benavidez. It sounds like matching these guys would be the best decision, and Morrell repeatedly asked for a meeting with Benavidez, but the promoters refused. Instead of putting out stars against each other, they continued to lead them on different paths. So the monster Bandera Roja fought Demetrius Andrade, and our favorite Cuban clashed with Ghanaian knockout artist Sena Agbeko. Agbeko really wanted to catch the champion with his straight, so he hardly threw other punches, but the tactic failed. David gracefully maneuvered between the straights and immediately inserted his hard punches. His jab pierced his opponent's face like a sewing needle, and the cross from the backhand seemed capable of delivering a knockout at any moment. By the second round, the Ghanaian's legs lost all their lightness, and he began to stall at the ropes, which meant nothing good for him. Morrell gradually got closer, and a minute and a half before the end, went completely berserk. He relentlessly beat Sena in the corner, landing his deadly punches until the guy found himself in a standing knockout. And that's it. Did you like the video? Then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. What do you think? Who would win a fight between Alvarez and Morrell? Does David have a chance to become a star in the light heavyweight division? Leave your opinion in the comments below.